I'm Rob Simon, and we're sitting on my deck in Wichita, Kansas. I'm originally from Texarkana, Texas, and among the many things that I do, I guess I'm sitting here because I'm a storyteller. And so storytelling for me is just about reflecting life in a variety of ways, either through people's real experience or through the imaginary experiences of people, or through the expressed stories of people who have creative energy inside them. But all of it, I think, is useful in helping us to see who we are and why we matter. Seems like in some ways I've always been a storyteller. As far as doing it, I think it's just one more way to get ideas out. And so I found myself doing it just as a matter of course while working with children in schools. I got into education by the back door, so to speak. I never thought about being a teacher when I grew up as a kid, but I decided to get a teaching certificate because I thought it would be a nice tool to have in my toolbox. And then it turned out that my first job was as a teacher here in Wichita. And I've discovered that it really was a good fit for me because I've always been a good learner, and that I could be creative in a variety of ways, and it just kind of kept going from there. And so the storytelling is part of that, music is part of that, humor is part of that, connecting with people is part of that. Because I work with people of all ages, from pre-kindergarten to senior citizen. But I think the audience that I'm striving to reach is one that may have some sense that they are not as capable as they really are. I guess my goal is to empower people to be their best selves. And so whether I'm working with kindergartners in a school or a group of senior citizens at a nursing home, I'm trying to remind us all that there's more to us than meets the eye, more to us than we give ourselves credit for, and that if we reach inside, we can find more of that potentiality. And it doesn't matter. I mean, Kentucky Fried Chicken was started by Harlan Sanders when he was 65, using his first Social Security check. That's how it began. Grandma Moses, famous American painter, never painted anything until she was 67 years old. So it doesn't matter how old we are, how young we are, there's always room to discover more of what we came into the world with and what we are capable of doing as our mission in the world. I was doing a presentation for a group of social workers from all over the state of Kansas a few years ago. It was a morning workshop, and we took a break about halfway. And at that break point, as people were filing out to go to the bathroom and what have you, this young woman walked up to me with a big smile on her face. And she said, "You may not remember me." She said, "But my name is Gladys," and she said the rest of her name. And she said, "I used to be a student of yours." She said, "I just want you to know," she said, "I have 3 boys. I teach my boys history because of you." She said, "I never liked history before I was in your class. But by being in your class, first of all, I understood that you cared about us as people, and we weren't just names on the roll." And she said, "I always got this sense that you were trying to teach us something about life and not just about history." And she said, "I also recognize that you tried to make it fun for us, that you tried to make it as enjoyable as possible." By the time she got that far in her story, I had tears in my eyes, because she was reflecting back to me the exact conversation that I had with myself when I first started teaching. I said to myself, I wanted to, first of all, try to teach kids something about life. Something about how to get from today to tomorrow with a certain amount of success and happiness and productivity, which is what we all want. And I wanted to try to make it as enjoyable as possible. And I wanted them, first of all and most of all, to know that I loved them. That they didn't have to do anything to earn my love, they just got it automatically. That was number 1. And then my 4th priority was to teach social studies, which is what I was hired to do. But the priorities were the only way that I could sensibly from within myself go about it. And I didn't know if that was the right thing to do or not. It felt right to me, and that's how I've always gone about my work as an educator. But to have her stand in front of me that day and reflect it back to me as if I had given her the words to say was one of the most powerful moments I've ever experienced along those lines. One of my favorite quotes all time is from Richard Bach's Illusions, that says, "The bond that links our true family is not one of blood, but of respect and joy in each other's lives." And it goes on to say that rarely do members of the same family grow up under the same roof. But I love that because it reflects so much about what family really is. Some of my mentors along the way, I count them, and I see them in me. The people who made the most difference for me along the way are part of me in many ways. That's part of how I came to choose education as part of my mission in life, was because I had teachers along the way that made a difference for me, and I wanted to model myself in whatever ways I could after them. When storytellers tell stories, they connect with people, and sometimes people see that within themselves. I don't know that I specifically do it person to person, but I'm also part of a storytelling group, and we've made it our business to encourage, first of all, kids to read, because that's where lots of great stories come from. But we also, this past summer, did our 6th annual Storytelling and Cultural Arts Camp. And so we work with kids aged 6 to 16 over a week and teach them all kinds of performing art type skills. And then we do a culminating presentation at the end of the week where they get to show their skills and talents. And so in that regard, we are very legitimately focused on teaching kids how to connect with stories and how to reflect stories as storytellers, as reciters, as singers, as drummers, as dancers. There's so many ways to reflect experience to people other than the spoken words. Sometimes no words at all are necessary, and yet stories can unfold. So in that way, we promote it all the time. Sometimes the seeds we plant grow into plants and flowers that we can't even imagine. So my job, as I see it, is just to give it out. I would be satisfied if I could look back at this life and recognize somehow that my intention for how I wanted to meet my life was realized to the best of my ability to do that. I want to make a difference for people. I want people to either come to know me or have an opportunity to hear some story I tell or some experience that I reflect with them that gives them a chance to recognize more of themselves than they do or than they did before I came into their world. Sometimes it's amazing how the smallest thing you do can make such a huge difference in a person's life, or can be part of a piece of a puzzle that comes together for them.